Alright, welcome to the IME 335 CNC Lathe setup for project number 3. In this video, we're going to learn how to set up the TL-1 lathe right over here. So, in class, we wrote a CNC program using Mastercam 2021 to utilize these 4 tools. Tool 1, a CNMG 432B roughing and facing tool. We're going to use that to rough and face a lot of our part. We have the VNMG 432B, the 35-degree diamond finishing tool. We use that to rough a little bit and finish. Then we have a 125 thick grooving tool. This one happens to have an 1/8 inch radius on the tip. Your project one will actually be a square shoulder, and that's on order. I just happen to have this one now for this demo video today. Then we have our part off tool. So we're going to set up these 4 tools and run that program that we wrote yesterday in our Mastercam 2021. So the first step is to come to the Haas control. And I did this already, but I powered it on, waited for the control to boot up, and at this point I pretty much cleared all the alarms and pressed power up restart. What that did is it moved the x-axis all the way back to the biggest swing diameter it would be possibly able to cut, and the z-axis moved all the way to the end here, making it the longest length that it would be able to cut. So this is the machine's world coordinate system, and all the offsets that we're going to set up in the offsets page are based off of offsets from this location. Now we have our 1.5 inch diameter stock. It's just kind of sitting in here. We'll talk about that, but we're going to be using bar stock and pulling it out for this project. And at this point, once you powered up, restarted, I want to go ahead and get rid of this memory stick that's in my hand right here. So I'm going to load the program that we wrote in class yesterday. So to do that, we put in the USB right here, and we go to the list program mode. That list program mode brings up 2 different devices. One, the USB we just put in, and then memory, which is the internal memory in the control here. So we're going to go ahead and use the cursor keys right here to highlight USB and press the sideways arrow to load the USB, the programs on the USB. And looking at it, we really only have this program right here. It's going to be written on 11/10/20, so yesterday. And we're going to go ahead and we want to select that program. So that's now our source. You can see that right here. The destination needs to be the memory. So I use my cursor to go over, up, and now if you look, the destination is turned to memory. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and load it by pressing F2. And it says I'm missing some parentheses. I probably forgot to put my parentheses in my program. Let's look real quick. With edit, it's going to tell me where I've got the issue. Oh, I see what it was. When the Mastercam post made too long of a comment, and you'll notice it went ahead and commented that out right there. I'm just going to delete that. Delete that. Remember, you can only have 50 characters per line per comment in this Haas machine. So I'm going to reset that. I'm going to go to the end, and it looks like we loaded our whole program there. It just had an issue with that comment. So I'm not too worried. Make sure, students, that you go ahead and delete that long comment at the beginning. So when I hit reset, I go back to the beginning here. I'm good to go. And I'm going to go ahead, before I forget, and take this out, cover the drive. And this actually goes in the tool room lathe, or tool room mill, sorry. So move that over here, and that USB to floppy was a lifesaver on that machine. So we'll move back around over here. So we've got the program loaded. Now, we decided together, based off the engineering drawing, that we were going to do a stick out length of 4 inches. So we've got this little square right here. We're going to go ahead and set a stick out length. It's kind of hard to do one-handed. Of 4 inches. Let me do that there. And tighten the chuck. Normally you would do this two-handed. We'll get close here. We're going to tighten that down. Let me just do this. And we're nice and tight there. So that's going to be where we're going to set all of our tools off of. And we're going to set this stick out length. It's at basically 4 inches. We are good right there. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pause. Alright, so all I did was I double checked the tightness during that pause and made sure that our stick out length is our 4 inches exact. So in order to set up these tools, if you remember, we have to be able to move this machine and do a test cut. So we're going to manually do a test cut, back off, measure that diameter, and basically touch all the tools off that machine diameter. And the control is going to ask us what that machine diameter is, and it'll go ahead and add that to the offset. So here we go, let's do it. So when I run over here, I'm going to go ahead and first put my safety shield down, because we're going to be starting the spindle in a second. But when I go to MDI, I'm going to delete what's in MDI right there. That was some quick code that we were doing a little bit earlier. And at this point, I'm going to go S1000 space M3. So I have S1000 M3. I'm going to put into block in there and insert. So I have one line of code in my MDI. So when I hit reset and cycle start, the lathe turns on and executes that line of code. Well, I'm going to go to my offsets page now, which is completely 0. So I need to set up the X diameter offset here by doing a test cut. So I'm going to grab tool number 1 real quick. I'm going to place tool number 1 in the tool holder. Right there, lock it down. And in order to move these, I have to go to my handle jog mode. And with handle jog, I'm going to go over, and I just want to run manual. So when I move the axes, I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to come over here, set our depth of cut. So I'm ready to pretty much feed in and feed out. So what I do is I move to the 0.01, I hold the Z negative, then I back with the Z positive, right here. So I just held that down and held that down to go forward and then backwards, and I hit reset. At this point, I haven't moved the X-axis. So what I can do is I can go to the offset button, I can come over here to tool 1, and I can press this X diameter measure button. What that does is it stores the negative 8.6734 from the machine's world coordinate system. It's the distance from the world coordinate system to where the tip of the tool currently is. And now I have to measure the diameter and enter that in there. So when I hit X diameter measure, I hit cancel, and it's waiting for me to put a diameter in there. So I come over here, and I need to grab a caliper to measure my part right there. So 1 second. So I've got my caliper, it's zeroed out. I'm going to go ahead and open up my caliper and come over and measure that diameter I just cut. When I look at it, bring it off, and I'm at 1.418. So I type in 1.418 right here. Notice it puts it right there, and it's going to go ahead and subtract it from that negative number because lathes read in diameter, so it took that value, and the tool really only moves half of what's commanded in the X. But that set the tool's tip on center line. Now, the second place we have to touch off is the front face right here, the Z face, which it's already been machined from last time it was cut off bar stock. So we're going to go ahead and just touch the tools off right on that face. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to handle jog mode. I'm going to bring the tool in, over, and touch it right on this front face of the part. That's a Z0. So, and then we come back over here, we hit offset, we come over here to the Z, we highlight it with the cursor key, so use the cursors to highlight the Z, and at this point we hit Z face measure. that goes ahead and records a negative 21.8545. That's the distance from the front face of the part at our stick out length to the machine's 0 point, the world 0. So we've set up one tool. Let's go ahead and set up the next tool. So to do that, I'm going to back off, out, open this up, grab my tool number 2 right here, which is our VNMG. It's our finishing tool. So we drop that on, we bring it in. I'm just going to set the Z first since I'm closest. I touch the Z face right there, so it's touching the front face. I use the cursor to come down and highlight tool numbers 2 Z's face, and I hit Z face measure. Then I move over to the X, I back out, off, over, and come and touch right there, and I press X diameter measure. Now it's asking me the inner diameter. It's the same machine diameter, so when I press enter, it subtracts that number, adding it so the X diameter offset's right on center line of that lathe. So at this point, I'm going to back out, open this up, off. We're going to grab tool 3. We're going to close it, move it in. We're going to come touch it off here so it touches the part. We go down to tool 3 with the cursor key, and we press X diameter measure. Same diameter we machine, so we press enter. It subtracts that from the offset, and then we go over with the cursor key to highlight the Z. So to touch off the Z, we back out, off, in, and over right here. So we've touched off there. So we come right back over here. We literally press Z face measure. It updated that value. And last but not least, we've got to set up our part off tool. So we go ahead, we swap over to tool 4. We slide on there, we lock tool 4 down. I'm just going to bring it over, touch the diameter first. So we come in, we touch the diameter there. We come over here with the cursor and we highlight tool 4. We press X diameter measure. It says inner diameter. I press enter. That subtracts it from it. Then we move over to the Z. We back out. We back off. We go in. We go over. We're touching now on the front face, right? And we press Z face measure. Now all 4 of our tools are completely set up. So let me back this one off real quick. Let me open this one up. Let me put in tool number 1. It's ready to go. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set the G54 shift. So we're going to shift all the tools because we set the 0 right here. G54 shifts all tools in a lathe. So we're going to move the Z negative 25 thou in that direction. So it thinks all the Z zeros are 25 thou inside this stock. That way, every time we pull out our stock out of the chuck with this, and set it with here, we have 25 thou to be within. So when we face it Z0, we kind of qualify that surface of the part. So to do that, I go over to my offsets, and I come over here, and you'll see there's negative 25 thou in the G54. So I can type in whatever number I want to subtract or add to that, and then basically it'll subtract or add, or I press F1 to actually set that value in the control. So I would say we're pretty much ready to run now. So let me put my shield down, and we go to memory to run. We see we got the right program. I called it name. And I'm going to go to 25% rapid. You should run 5% rapid. And at this point, I hit reset to make sure it's at the top of the screen, and then cycle start. So here we go. That should be the farthest back we go with any tool right there. We extended our tool path line. I'm going to move to 100% rapid at this point. Alright, so in between tool changes, we have this G28, which is a safe thing to do in a lathe. So we're going to go ahead and swap it out. It says install tool 2. So we open up this, we come over here, you put tool 1 back, keep them in order at all times. Look at 2, make sure it says 2. You bring it back, you put it down on the dovetail, you lock it down. I'm going to go to 25% rapid now in a second. When I get close, you'll see it rapids to position. That's 100, but we're going to go to 25 when we approach close to the part. And we're going to come back and rough that radius back here. Sorry, I was looking at the part, not the camera. Now it's going to go come finish the front. Now it's going to come finish that rear radius. Woo, looks good. At this point it's coming back, it's retracting, and this is where my insert doesn't match what we programmed with, but yours will. Once it comes in shipping, it's Veterans Day 2020 right now, and there's no shipping today, but mine's got a full radius. Yours is going to have the nice, basically small 10-thou radius on the edge, so you can make those chamfers. So mine's going to look a little bit different than yours right now. So here we go. Grooving. Remember, we rough them all first, then it's going to come back and finish them. I'm going to bump my feet a little bit because it's a little slow. I'm running like a 4th-thou chip load now with this. Don't worry, it'll finish it afterwards. Those are just the grooves from the radius on the insert. Ooh, I hate when chips get stuck like that and touch my part. Scratches it. I do have a paintbrush somewhere. I don't know where it went. Oh well. Now we're going to come back and finish the groove. You'll see it's turning with the grooving tool and meeting in center. Mine's not going to put the radius on the part, or the chamfers on the part, though. We were supposed to have chamfers on those. But I don't have a stress riser. You have a bigger stress riser. Got to make sure I don't drop my phone into this lathe, too. It's a bad day. Alright, so while it's coming back, I'm just going to swap the tool back out. Come over here, and we're going to put in our part off tool. Now, because I bumped the feed up 160%, I got to remember to go back to 100% feed rate for this next tool. Tool 4 is in. I press go. Before it gets there, though, I want to grab my paintbrush, and I want to brush all the chips off of right here. You don't want it to fall in a bunch of chips and get kicked back. I also am going to find you a rubber pad to go ahead and put down right here so your part falls on that rubber pad. And there's Uncle Martin. Hi, Uncle Martin. So, here we go. Now that we're getting close, I'm going to go 5% rapid. You should be in 5 at all times, because we are going to be close to the chuck on this one. Look at that. Clearance is clearance, though. It's a robot. It'll do the same thing every single time. Cool. So it's going to start its peck. Probably don't need to retract as much. Probably a 10 thou retract would be better than this 25 thou. But we are going to part off here in any second. CNC machining in the age of COVID-19. Video demos. Mine's not going to have the rubber pad, so it's going to have a little ding in it, but we'll make sure we get that for your part. Any second here. It's that 500 RPM speed that we went with, right? So now that we've cut through it, we're going to go 100% rapid. It backs out, off. And what I have is I have a left-handed part off tool. It didn't leave a nipple on this one, but it left a giant nipple on your part. The reason is you're going to see this one's got raked to the one side. Where is it? Right here. You're going to see it's raked out to this side, but I couldn't find a right-handed one. I found the left-handed part off tool. So, but anyways, here's our part that we programmed together in class, start to finish. Pretty much we'll talk about first article inspection next time, but that was the steps to go and set up this tool room lathe.